First of all, let me start by saying I'm very honored to be here to talk about yield management. It's something I'm very passionate about. I have been a hotelier, I've been an online travel agency, and now here I am on the technology side of the business. So I'm able to understand the perspective of each of those variations in the industry, and I am very much for the supplier owning and operating their yield management strategy. After all, it is their product. They know more about their product than anybody else, and they have the right to effectively manage the yield and profitability of their business. And they can do that by choosing the right partners and determining how much of their inventory and product they should distribute, how often, and at what price. Distributors should not be considered a necessary evil. I hear that. I was accused of that when I was at the OTA. Essentially, they should be considered as an extension of your business. Not the entirety of your business and not the entirety of your yield strategy, but a portion of it, especially when you're able to manage it effectively and efficiently to, again, focus on the profitability of your business. Yes, it needs to be acknowledged that the distributor acquired that customer. For whatever reason, your direct marketing efforts didn't bring that customer directly to your door. You can leverage the increased marketing budget and effectiveness of your distributor, and it's important to understand the difference in the consumer behavior on each of your distribution channels. How does the customer look and act on your website? How does the customer look and act on each of your distributors? And it's not a one-size-fits-all or one strategy applies to each of your distribution channels. Each of them have a slightly different customer. Each of them have slightly different consumer behavior, and sharing that insight to you can be very valuable as you continue to evolve your yield strategy. And it should not be a one and done, meaning once you have your yield strategy in place, you need to continue to evolve it and continue to educate yourself by acquiring the data from everybody that you're working with to give yourself more visibility and a deeper education into how consumers are behaving. The distributor brought the customer to your table. They were a booking means to an end. Ultimately, the customer wanted your product. They wanted that experience. They went through a distributor for a means to an end. You as an operator know your product more intimately than anybody else. Sharing that insight to your distributors makes them smarter as well. You can provide unique data points to them, and they can provide unique data points to you. Again, continuing to evolve and advance your yield strategy, ultimately increasing the productivity as well as the profitability of your business. Again, distributors should be considered a valued partner, but not the controlling entity. It's your business. You have the right to determine, again, how you distribute, what products do you distribute, how frequently you distribute them, at what availability you distribute them, whether dynamic or not. And Sébastien at Moulin Rouge is a perfect example of how he was able to advance his business, increase the profitability, and ultimately increase the customer experience by having a very sound and evolving yield strategy. So that's it from me.
All right, super. Thank you very much, Melanie.
You're welcome.
Now let's have our... Thank you. Now let's have our next debater, who may have a contrarian point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the Managing Director of 365 Tickets, Mr. Tim de Gruchy.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to spend some time with you this afternoon. And well done, Douglas. Great pronunciation of my surname. Fantastic. So Douglas and I spoke about this quite a few times, about yield management and dynamic pricing, and there's so many faces in this room. It's obviously a massive topic, and I'm meant to be the guy that says, no, this is all a lot of nonsense and don't even think about it. I'm not going to say that, but what I will say is you've got to proceed with caution. We've had a fantastic example from Moulin Rouge just now. And if you recall, just moments ago, they started this process in 2013 to start building towards a dynamic solution. And if you haven't started yet looking to your dynamic solution, you can play that out to where you're going to be now. So very simply, it is a case of supply and demand. As a distributor, we have a very good working knowledge of the trends and patterns, purchasing patterns within the jurisdictions that we work in. But you guys also know that too. And I would argue that dynamic pricing, yield management comes down to that demand. And if you haven't got demand yet, then there are other priorities that you need to focus on. Realistic expectations, that really depends on whose expectations they are, and I know they vary within your organizations. Dynamic pricing, I absolutely applaud the work that Moulin Rouge have done. And I think we were one of the first distributors to integrate with the Moulin Rouge API, and we saw some successes. We've also come across some hurdles. And obviously, when you're talking about, or when you're looking at dynamic pricing, you're obviously thinking primarily because you want to do direct sales yourself, obviously, what's right for your organization, what's right for your business. The second thought then is what happens to my distribution channels and how does my strategy align with what they're trying to do on behalf of us. We've all had massive learnings, I would say, in the last couple of days on data connectivity. And to my mind, it's a little bit like traveling on a long journey with the kids. It's a case of, when we're going to get there. Hopefully we're going to get there soon, and we're not quite there yet, and we would like to be. And I think it's because of the idiosyncrasies of our businesses, our organisations, and the fact that we can't even agree on at what point a child turns into an adult. This has always been very strange. And then, like Melanie was saying in her slide, it all comes down to how you're building your relationships directly with your customers and boosting the sales and yield with your distribution partners. Thank you, both.
Fantastic. Tim, thank you. So,
Well done, guys.
great. So I've heard three terms so far that stood out. So there's variable pricing, there's dynamic pricing, and there's yield management. So I think, as I understood from your presentation, Sébastien, so variable pricing, that is simply, okay, at the beginning of the year, I'm going to set all of my prices. They're going to vary based on whatever criteria, day a week, time of day, what have you, but they're still set. So dynamic pricing and yield management, in like 30 seconds in very simple language, Melanie, what are they? What's the difference?
Sure. So the true definition of dynamic pricing is the ability to adapt your pricing in real time based on supply and demand. This industry is not quite there yet. So variable pricing.
So, can I just jump in? So dynamic pricing, so changing your pricing based on supply and demand in real time.
Correct.
So how many people here, their companies, how many are doing dynamic pricing? I should not raise my hand because we are not doing that at Arival.
I saw two, 3 hands.
3, 4. Okay. How many? Okay, 4, 5 or 6. Okay. How many are doing variable pricing? You set varied pricing, and maybe at the beginning of the year, but it doesn't really change. Not very many. So, okay. So I just one more question. So how many of you are basically setting seasonal pricing? So you set fixed prices at the season, and that's it. They don't change. Come on, admit it. Admit it. Okay. So, and then, sorry.
Can I ask a question? How
Please.
much time is spent on that one price over the whole season?
Well, that's going to take a bit of a
Yeah,
while
it
to
is, yeah.
get 700 answers. So, okay, so dynamic pricing. Tim, do you want to finish the definition on yield management? 30 seconds or less, really simple.
It's basically trying to maximize the amount of customers that you can have over your seasons, low season, high season, and trying to draw those customers in. Obviously, you want to do it directly. Obviously, you can use distributors to help you do that.
Wait, but I thought it was maximizing yield. Is it maximizing the volume or is it maximizing yield? I'm confused.
Well, that depends on your product. In terms of bringing customers to your venue, that's fantastic. You want to increase your volumes. But if you've got a secondary spend in your park, then obviously there's implications for that. So it depends on each supplier.
Sébastien, what's more important to you? It's maximizing yield because you've already got pretty good demand, right?
To me, it's more about maximizing the price and the margin you do on a specific date, and that you can, you know, when you have dates where you know that you're gonna be full, then, well, you know, at this time, that's our major problem of having a high seat occupancy. We're trying to move those people that are on our most requested dates to dates where we're not that full or on our second show. So we're trying to get more customer, but on the other side, we're trying to sell it the best price, because this is about it. Selling the right price at the right time, and I think it's more about that.
So what's, and by the way, we can open up for questions, so if anyone has a question, please raise your hand.
Douglas, can I add into that? I think yield strategy is the effective management of allotments and inventory and product and pricing based on consumer behavior as well as consumer demand. So I think it's a manipulation of all of that that essentially gives you the yield strategy to maximize the profitability of your business.
So we only saw 7 or 8 hands go up. What, Melanie, what is the one thing that you think is holding the industry back? I mean, why don't we have hundreds of hands? Or is it a series? Is it the technology? What's going on?
It's the technology. It's the technology, right? So today, not many people have the ability to manage allotments by channel or manage rates or inventory or margins or retail rates by channel. It's a little bit of a one-size-fits-all and first come, first serve. So as the industry advances and there are technology tools that allow you to become more efficient, I think we'll get there a lot quicker.
So if we had the perfect technology in place, ready to go, everybody would be ready to implement within...
I think technology is the start, and then data and the analysis of that data, and becoming very educated on, again, consumer behavior, consumer demand, market conditions, distributor differentiation, right? Having that data in addition to the tools allows us to get there.
Tim, do you agree? Is it just a data and tech problem?
I'm not here to agree, am I? I've got to challenge this.
Let's bring it, Tim.
I would say,
come on.
I would say it's not the technology that comes first. That's the only part of that statement that I would probably challenge. It's got to come down to the data first, you know, who is your audience and where are they coming from, and you know, are you maximizing the volume of traffic into your experience? And that's the challenge. I don't think everybody's got a full understanding of where their audience is coming from and where that demand is. And the next phase is the technology should be quite easy to achieve. You know, there are suppliers, operators that have already got it out there in the market at this moment in time. But then it's a real case of, well, okay, who do you leave this with? You know, who does the dynamic pricing? And you could argue that the pricing model that's been put forward by Moulin Rouge is based on daily seasons, because they know it's going to be higher volume at the weekend. So they've structured a pricing channel. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the definition of dynamic. It's just educated pricing more than anything else. Very educated pricing more than anything else. But in terms of that control piece afterwards, you have this system, this platform, all singing and dancing technology. And how big is your team? And who sits there on a rainy Wednesday day and say, do you know what, it should be 16 euros today. That's what I think it should be. You know, that's the real challenge that's posing us. Personally, I think it starts with the data.
Okay, so data. So just, Sébastien, how much data did you need? Like, when do you have enough data?
Well, like I said in the presentation, we had a booking system that has been running for 10 years, so we had plenty of data. So we could figure out those recurrent, you know, seasonality and stuff like that. So we had plenty of data, but I think as long as you have enough data to identify recurrency, it's enough. So 2 or 3 years would be enough if, in fact, you can match stuff from years to years.
So, okay, but so you have 2 or 3 years of data from an attraction that is 2 shows almost nightly, right? So, and what's the capacity per show?
900.
Okay, so we're talking 1,800 tickets per day
night, yeah.
over 2 years. That's a lot. So let's say I'm a tour operator and I do just a few thousand passengers a year. Is this is this for just attractions, or is this for just large tour operators? Melanie? I mean, what's your?
No, I think it's for all size and scope of tours and activities, right? Again, you have a product that you're selling to a consumer base. Every day may look a little different. Every product may look a little different. There's seasonality involved, and so it should never be a one-size-fits-all. Can we ask the question, if the data and technology was available, how many people would have dynamic pricing or have a more detailed yield strategy than is in place today?
2 hands up. Are you allowed? 2
There's
hands
a lot,
up.
yeah. So I think the appetite is there.
Please. Yeah, come. You have a question from the floor. Introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Noam. I'm coming from a company called CTO in Israel, and we are doing daily and weekly tours. And I think part of the answer why we are not doing that is that still nowadays, and forgive me all the OTAs here, massive amount of booking is still made via hotel concierge and, attraction kiosks and so on. And, he's a concierge. He doesn't have the time to see, which of the suppliers has changed the rate today and so on. He needs to do his work, so he's trying to sell something. Then we are distributing millions of brochures, printed brochures that still have a significant price. So, it's a bit hard, to put people that paid one price another price.
Yeah, that's a challenge. I mean, if you run thank you very much for that. I mean, if you run a small tour company and you've got 20 people on your bus that, for one reason the tire goes flat, everybody sat there for a little while, you can bet that the first question they're going to be asking to their left and right is, how much did you pay for this tour? And if there are huge discrepancies in that price, then, we've been talking about reviews.
Well,
There is a challenge.
People have been talking about this with airlines for years. We've all gotten used to it. Who's
Yeah.
to say that our customers can't get used to it too? Likewise for hotels.
Yeah, I mean, and the other aspect is we can completely flip this in terms of does the operator really need to do the dynamic pricing? And the answer is no. We focus so much and focus so heavily, all of us, on our customers. At the end of the day, it could be the customers making the choice about what the price is. And there are some very good examples in the market at this moment where customers can come onto your site, choose a price that they're prepared to pay, and at that stage you either accept it or you don't accept it. That really, really determines how valuable, or the value proposition, which is a load of business talk, actually how good your experience is or what people value your product is. So that could be something completely different.
Melanie, so how do we solve that traditional distribution problem?
Well, concierges is a unique scenario, right? So all of it is essentially offline today, and that's problematic for some of the operators, right? Because they don't have the visibility into the consumer behavior. And I think technology helps solve some of that. So yes, the concierge doesn't have a lot of time to be able to research it. He's kind of going off the top of his head, but provided he was given the tools that he can search for availability in real time, it makes him smarter about what's happening in the market and understanding the market dynamics, which ultimately benefit the consumer in the long run.
Sébastien, so how many distribution partners do you work with?
With the API, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
We're about 15, a little bit more. We're still deploying it.
And so you still have some partners you work with outside of the API? Not so much. Okay.
Not so much.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
The fact is that we're trying to make all the operators we're working with to have the same price, which is normal. I mean, it's not normal for a customer to see a price on a specific date on a site and to have a different price on another site. So we're trying to get them all of our historical partners to get connected with our API so they will all have the same price.
Do you print brochures?
Do I what, sorry?
Do you print brochures?
Yeah, we do.
And do you publish the prices on those brochures?
From the lowest price.
Okay, and is that working, or is that creating problems? Are you having customers who happen to sit next to each other, and this comes up?
We do.
And do you get complaints? Is this generated significant complaints?
We do have a few, but it's not that significant. Mostly we don't have big deals about that.
Okay. Is the distribution community, are they ready for this? Are we open?
excited?
Mr. Distribution?
Yeah.
Well,
we don't have operators knocking on the door or crying down the phone saying, Tim, you're going to lose the contract unless you do dynamic. It's not there at this moment in time. Clearly from the conversations that have been happening now and the evidence that we've seen, you can increase your bottom line if you get the yield management dynamic pricing element under control. Are we ready for it? I mean, there are plenty of discussions about getting our technology into a place to be able to support our operators. It's a case of, from our side of things, we do lose a bit of functionality, and ultimately it comes down to the supplier relationships, and we just want to, we get paid on performance. If we sell a ticket, and everybody makes. More complexity creates more roadblocks, and that's a bit of a challenge.
Melanie, the last question to you. So for those in the room who have not started, but they're in this room, so they're at least thinking about it, what's the first step they should take?
Trend analysis, understanding your business, understanding the consumer behavior. As you mentioned, the consumer dictates the price at times. So understanding what your price elasticity is based on...
Sorry, can I just ask, what is price elasticity?
The fluctuation of your price and the consumer engagement in that price. If you go too high, they may not book. If they go too low, they think your product's not that valuable.
What your customers are willing to pay.
Exactly, right? So understanding that dynamic, understanding the seasonality, understanding the difference in consumer behavior on your distribution partners, and analyzing that data. And that data usually becomes very clear about where you have opportunities to effectively yield by increasing your prices or even lowering them in times of need.
Okay, last question is to the audience. This was a debate. It was a very friendly, very cordial debate. So for the audience, I would like to know who won. For, raise your hands. Okay. Against? Okay, about 80% of you didn't vote. Okay. Didn't understand. So,
for supplier.
So for dynamic pricing, we'll try this again. I'd like to know who won. For dynamic pricing? Okay. Against dynamic pricing? Thank you, Angela. I think the fours have it. Melanie, Sébastien, Tim, thank you so much.